What is up, and welcome back to Jack's Edits. Today I'm bringing you yet another pretty common meta deck from Saviors of Uldum, which is the Control Warrior. I've seen a lot of people complaining about Control Warrior, about how super polarizing it is, how popular it is on the ladder. And so if you can't beat him, then join him. So today we're going to go through Taunt Warrior, or Taunt Control variant. And a lot of people think that Control Warrior is super easy to play. I tend to disagree. I think it's pretty difficult to get exactly right, which is why we're going to go through it today, pick apart some games. Because the Taunt Control Warrior games are a bit longer, I'm going to do each game as a separate video, and we'll probably do a couple of parts to this one, just so we can really have a look at some different games without each video taking forever to watch. So we'll quickly go through the deck here. Obviously we won't have to do that in the following videos, and as always the deck code will be in the description if you're after it. So I've gone for the Taunt variation of the Control Warrior, which pretty much just runs the two Taunt Wardens, the Armadillo, and the Frightened Flunky. Now these 5 cards alone basically carry the Taunt archetype, just because obviously you've got Dr. Boom and you've got a Mega Assembly, so you're always discovering a lot of taunts as well as what's in your deck. So that kind of package by itself is really strong. It's really a really good anti-aggro package, which I'm finding is pretty necessary at the moment. I know some people think that a more aggressive make of the Control Warrior, such as with the bombs, would be better. But for what I'm finding in the meta right round at about rank 5, the Taunt is definitely better, the more defensive package. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard build with the addition of the new Restless Mummy over the Militia Commander, which I had before the expansion. I think the Restless Mummy is much better. Some people are running both, but I find with Ziliax also being part of the Taunt package as well, being able to draw that with Town Crier and then buff it with the Armadillo is super good. So without further ado, let's get into a game. So game 1 here is against a Rogue. As you can see, I'm battling it out at ranked 5, which progress has been a little bit slow for me, but hopefully with this new Control Warrior we can get some wins. I'm going to keep the Frightened Flunky right off the bat here, just a super good 2-drop. A good 2-drop was kind of what Warrior was missing, especially the Control Warrior last expansion. It could pretty easily get run over in the early game because it didn't have any of those early minions. So a 2-mana 2/2 with Taunt is super good, especially when it can often get itself. You can Frightened Flunky into Frightened Flunky just because it is a class specific card, meaning it has a higher rate. You get it more frequently. So quite often you can just go Flunky into Flunky early game, which is a pretty good turn 2, turn 3, when previously you would have just been hitting armor up, which is definitely not as proactive. So neither of us have a turn 1 here, just going to skip through. Turn 2, I see the prep, I'm thinking maybe a big Edwin. He actually ends up with Raiding Party, which I haven't seen, so cool to see some experimentation. Again, we're still pretty early into this expansion. I am just going to play the Flunky, as I said. You do often get Armadillo as well, just because it's another class specific card, which again has a higher frequency. And I pretty much always pick it, like unless I'm in a sticky situation where I need something cheap, just because going Armadillo into Armadillo, like you can turn 5, coin it turn 5 and then go into turn 6, and then on turn 6 you get a really big 6/9 Armadillo, so it's just super good value there, and the card is really powerful. I would definitely run 2 if I could. Anyway, just going to shield block here. Again, if it was a slower control match, I would just be pressing the button there even though it's turn 3. Just to help get ahead in fatigue and also to use my mana efficiently. But he's playing Rogue, it's probably a semi-aggressive deck. I've seen the Pirates, I've seen him drawing weapons, so I'm just going to shield block there. He plays the Waggle Picks and just hits face straight away, which makes sense on an empty board. He kind of gets to choose what he wants to bounce next turn, which is good for him. Again, I don't have a proactive play here, so I am just going to shield block and play the Eternium Rover, but I am coming into some pretty powerful turns, so I'm not too worried. I could have saved the Eternium Rover here. It's a pretty easy hit for him, but given that he's probably playing an aggressive deck, he's seeing my armor build up, he's probably just going to want to hit the face, which he does. He plays the green skin there to increase his weapon, which isn't too bad for me. If he plays like a good combo card next turn, it potentially, the green skin can get sat back to his hand instead of the card that he wants, so it's not the worst for me. Here I have the option, I can Restless Mummy and trade into his guy twice, or I can use one of them and the rover, or as I was saying before, I can just choose to coin the Armadillo. So I'm going to think about this for a bit. It is kind of an important play, but given that I've just drawn that the Tomb Warden, it's looking like Armadillo is going to be a pretty good play here. As soon as you're buffing more than one card, so in this case 2 cards, I'm getting +8/+8 in stats. There's the 6/9 Armadillo, and then on top of that, the Tomb Warden actually doubles itself, so it's like +12/+12 in stats really, just from that one proc of the Armadillo. So that's super value, and I'm going to do that. Like I said, as long as you're getting more than one card, it's usually pretty good. Sometimes one card is enough, especially if you're, you know, kind of pressed and you need to play something big next turn. But here, when I'm not feeling too much pressure, I can easily get a bit more value out of it. He's going to play the Miscreant there and then attack in, sap it back to his hand, and I believe he chooses to play it again here. So he's got 4 Luckies in hand now, which can be a little bit scary, but it's not it means he hasn't got a lot of value in his hand, hopefully. So we're looking alright here. Again, I've got an option to just play a really big 6/9 Taunt here if I want. I'm going to trade that just to get the 2 armor, and then play the 6/9. So again, I'm only getting 1 proc here, but the 6/9 on board on turn 6 is super good, and also I'm buffing the Tomb Warden, which means that every proc that I get with the buff is actually doubled. So instead of just being +2/+2 there, it's +4/+4, which is super nice. He's going to discover a spell there, and he's going to get Walk the Plank straight off the bat, which is pretty unfortunate, but not much he can do about that. Goblin lucky, so he gets a good trade for there. But again, his board is not looking too threatening, and I have a big hand of answers and threats, so I'm not too worried, even though I am behind on board. Here I can choose to Restless Mummy and do some trading. I can choose to Warpath. I could have potentially played the Super Collider there and just spent the mana for a later turn. Here I choose to play the Eternium Rover before the last Warpath, just to get a proc with the 2 shield, just because pretty often here the Rogue does just kill it in one go. So I just throw it down there just to get an extra 2 armor. Again, I'm not super low in health, but the armor's nice. I've got a Shield Slam in hand, so if he wants to play a big Edwin or something else, I'll have the answer for it there, which is helped by the Rover. He's going to play the second Waggle Picks here and Raiding Party. I'm not expecting him to draw 3 here just because he's already played the 2 Waggle Pickses. He actually gets 2 Dread Corsairs off that, which is pretty strong. That's a good turn for him, and he's going to choose to hit the face there, which makes sense. So here I can choose to play a really big Tomb Warden. I can play a small Tomb Warden. I can play 2 Restless Mummies. A Restless Mummy and trade off both these guys. Or what I end up choosing to do is playing the Super Collider, which is a pretty strong pretty strong clear for both these guys, and then just armoring up. So still not really feeling the pressure here. The Control Warrior is very much living up to its name. I'm just kind of dealing with threat by threat as it comes. He chooses to play the Life Drinker, which he's going to sap back to his hand. But again, still not too worried. 20 health. Not too bad. I know there's the possibility of Leroy, and he is kind of starting to burn me here a bit. But he has used both Waggle Picks, and I find it unlikely. This deck usually doesn't run Shadow Step, so I'm not too worried about a huge amount of burst damage, a Leroy and an Eviscerate maybe. Still a lot of damage, but it's not going to quite get there. And I have a lot of big taunts in my hand, which is probably going to make that even more difficult for him. So I end up just choosing to play this. Which is some pretty serious value of the Taunt Warden. That is 8 mana for 14/20 in stats, which is obviously huge. I don't need to attack here, and obviously I can't Shield Slam anything, so that is just going to be the end of turn there. But I imagine that he's probably pretty disheartened when he sees that come down. I haven't got the Dr. Boom out, which is a little bit worse in this situation. I obviously don't get the rush on the 2 big guys, but it's not too much of a worry here. Again, the biggest threat for me right now is if he's got like 2 saps. Obviously that's going to clear my board pretty well, but he does, if he returns it back to my hand, I do get essentially double the taunts because each of them copies themselves when they get returned to my hand. So he's going to clear that first one off with a bit of burst damage from hand. but his hand is getting pretty diluted. I have no idea what this card was when it came down. Pretty nice to draw a card, but I obviously don't want him drawing cards, especially with his hand so low. It just means that there's way less threats to worry about, so I don't really want him building that up. So I'm going to make it a priority to kill that off. I've got this Restless Mummy, which is pretty good for killing both the SI7 agent and the Life Drinker on the right there. Got this Omega Devastator in hand, which is going to be a cute way to kill off the 1/6. Obviously I could have used a 7/10, but I would like to go face here with the 7/10, start kind of whittling him down. I am definitely in control here, but he is at 30 health, so we've got some pretty significant damage to do in there, so hit him for 7. Hand's getting pretty low. I still am wary of the burst that a rogue can have, but again, sitting pretty well here with 20 health. He's going to choose to Dagger and Deadly Poison here, eviscerate the 7/10. He's actually going to hit it with his face, which is a lot of damage, and then finish this off with a Shadow Step and put the lucky damage into it. So he actually does manage to clear off both 7/10s without a sap, which is pretty impressive, honestly. And it's kind of scary. Had I not had that taunt, those two taunts, probably all 20 of that damage would have gone to the face and I would have lost. So he's going to draw the rest of his deck here, which is a little bit scary, but obviously it's super random what he actually manages to get, whether or not he got the Leroy or anything else. He's left to be seen. I am just going to play another taunt here, not quite as intimidating as the one before, but probably still quite annoying for him. Again, the rogue does have a lot of burst. Hopefully he doesn't have the double sap. It's pretty unlikely given how many cards he did just get rid of there, and even then he would need basically the nuts in order to kill me still from 21 health. So as I said before, the reason I picked this game is just because it's a control warrior doing what it does best, which is just controlling the board, dealing with the threats as they come. I never really felt the need to put any too much pressure on the board onto him, just because of the kind of deck he is. Being a more aggressive deck, he is going to fizzle out eventually if I just deal with all the threats as they come. Obviously you can't do that with every deck, and sometimes, especially against those combo decks, you will need to put on a bit of pressure yourself, which the warrior does struggle with a little bit, and that's why before I mentioned potentially the bomb package, but for now, just given what I'm facing on the ladder, I'm probably going to stick with this. So he actually does end up having the double sap, and he plays the Hench Clan Thug and a big Edwin with it. Fortunately, as warrior does, probably very disheartening for him. I have the easy clear there, armor up, and he is slowly dying to fatigue damage. So I've still got plenty of clears in my hand. I've got the Mummy, I've got the Shield Slam, I've got 2 Brawls, and he probably realized that and is fizzling out. And so he is just going to concede then. So 4 stars at rank 5. So thanks for watching that match, guys. As I said, this is just part 1. There's going to be a few matches with this, and because the videos are a bit shorter and easier to put together, being just the one game, I am going to put up one of these every day for the next few days while we're going through this control warrior tutorials and playing with the game. So the deck list is on the screen here. It's also in the description as a deck code if you want to try it out. Thanks very much for watching. I'd love you to leave a like on the video if you watch it and enjoy it. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow with another one. Peace.